Howdy BookTube, Chelsea the Reading Outlaw here to bring you guys my Nonfiction November TBR, yeah! Nonfiction November starts tomorrow! I love Nonfiction November. It's one of my favorite, thematic reading months of the year. I love nonfiction year round, but sometimes I save my nonfiction specifically for Nonfiction November. If you're unaware of what Nonfiction November is, I will link a Book Olive's video down below where she kind of explains it, but essentially what it is it is the goal of reading any amount of nonfiction, more nonfiction than you normally read, as much nonfiction as possible through the month of November. Nonfiction is literally defined as anything that is factual. So everything from celebrity memoirs and cookbooks to deep science tomes and historical things. So there's a whole spread of that, a whole gamut in here. I have 15 books that I want to get through this month. That's probably not going to happen. I got through 13 last month, and last month was a really good month. Last month also wasn't a lot of really heavy nonfiction, or at least a lot of really long nonfiction. So we will have to see how that actually turns out. A lot of these are on audio, which means I should be able to buzz through them quicker than normal, but that all comes down to how much time I actually get to listen to my audiobook and do my audiobook things. So I'm going to start with the ones that I have physically in person. The first one is You Can't Touch My Hair by Phoebe Robinson, subtitle being And Other Things I Still Have to Explain. This is a collection of essays by Phoebe Robinson, who is African American, basically explaining why you can't just walk up to an African American person and ask to touch their hair, or just touch their hair without asking, and several other really inappropriate cultural things that happened to her as an African American woman. She's a comedian. It's very, very humorous. I have it on very good authority from people that I know in real life that this book is amazing. I was told it was at Shrill levels of amazing. Shrill by Lindy West is another essay collection I read earlier this year that is possibly one of my favorite books of the year so far. So to hear that this is on par with that, I am super, super excited to pick this up. It's not very long. They're personal essays, so hopefully this should be one of the quicker ones. Up next, we have Hidden Figures. This is by Margot Lee Shetterly. This is about the African-American woman recruited during World War II to work for NASA to crunch the mathematical figures and perform the calculations needed to essentially get us to space. So as you can imagine, women in the space program, not frequently heard about. Women of color in the space program, even less so. So I'm really, really excited to get into this. The space program, especially the history of the space program, is something that I find really fascinating because I love space. And if we're ever going to get to Star Trek, we need to keep it up, NASA. Bump it up a little bit. But I'm really excited to getting into the history of women that I can guarantee that I've never heard of, and that my gut tells me probably not a lot of you have ever heard of. And then after that comes the big one, the Kahuna. This is the one I'm going to be carting around with me for basically the entire month. This is, as you can tell, if you've not seen this cover before, you are living under a rock. This is Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow. This is the biography that started it all. It even says so right here in this Hamilton the Musical based sticker. This is the biography that Lin-Manuel Miranda took with him on vacation and read and used to write the musical Hamilton. I'm so excited to get to this. Because it is election season, I cannot stop listening to my favorite political musicals, Hamilton and Les Mis specifically. I understand that this is not that, and that this is going to be a very different experience, but I am always, always excited to get to the canonical roots of a thing that I am really enjoying on a fandom level. I just wish this one maybe weren't like a 700-page biography of Hamilton. So, fingers crossed. It's my first presidential biography ever. They're kind of a genre unto themselves, so we'll see how that works out. The only other two print books that I want to read are actually fiction books. They're the only fiction books I want to get through. The first one is the rest of It. I've got about 500-ish pages left in It, so I'm hoping I should be able to knock it out fairly early in the month, especially because this is my kind of early morning in the house reading, and it goes pretty quickly because it's mass market paperback. The other thing I want to read, we'll see. I try every November to read a classic, like a classic with a capital C. And this month, as I already said, I can't stop listening to Les Mis, so it seemed a good as time as any to reread Les Mis. I'm listening to it on audio and also reading through the paperback. This book, as you can tell, is like 1,500 pages long, but I don't even care. So I think this book doesn't really pick up until the second half when we get into all of my super angsty and adorable political boyfriends trying to lead revolution in France, but we'll get there. The story as a whole needs to be consumed. Other than that, I have a whole bunch of ebooks and audiobooks that are nonfiction that I want to get to. I'm going to go through them fairly quickly because there are a lot of them. The first one, or all of these will be on audio. All of the next, I believe there are 7, will be on audio. So the first one is An Emperor of All Maladies by Siddhartha Mukherjee. This is a biography of cancer and looks at the history of cancer research, cancer treatment, and cancer science, how we interact with patients, doctors, and the disease itself. The next one is the Andy Cohen Diaries by Andy Cohen, where he goes and he's just going to dish a bunch of shit about the housewives. And I am ready to hear that. I'm ready to hear that. I'm so here for that. The next one is Lafayette in the Somewhat United States by Sarah Vowell. This is essentially her examination of the Marquis de Lafayette and his influence on American politics and the Revolution, what that says about immigrants, money, class, history, legacy, and what we in America value in all of those things. After that comes 1776 by David McCullough. This is literally an examination of the year 1776, the year of the Revolution. And it looks at all of the major players, the major events, the social causes of those events, and of course the political ramifications thereafter. I want a little bit of an American history theme right now, if you can't tell. I'm going to blame it on election month, and we'll just go with that. Beyond that becomes Beyond Belief, My Secret Life Inside Scientology and My Harrowing Escape by Jenna Miscavige Hill. I would not be on channel brand if there were not something Scientology related this month during Nonfiction November. After that comes Death by Black Hole and Other Cosmic Quandaries by Neil deGrasse Tyson. This is an examination of black holes, space, things that it took scientists and math people a really long time to figure out, and maybe they still haven't figured out fully yet. I don't really know. I don't speak science, I don't speak math, but I love Neil deGrasse Tyson and I love space, so that is why I am reading this book. After that then comes Deep Down Dark, The Untold Story of 33 Men Buried in a Chilean Mine and the Miracle That Set Them Free by Hector Tobar. A couple of years ago, you may have heard or you may remember that a Chilean mine cave-in happened and 33 men were trapped. But it turns out we knew after the fact that this was a collapse that had been kind of foretold, that there had been some really shoddy things that happened within the infrastructure of the business that led to this not being the safest environment. So I'm really excited to look at the intrigue of how all that came out, and also I've been told that this book is very emotionally gripping. And then lastly, I have a couple of books on ebook that I want to get through. The first one is Asking For It by Kate Harding. This is yet another book about rape culture, what it is, where it came from, why it's still here, what we're doing about it or not doing about it. I've read several books like this year. They're all important to read, as difficult as they are. So I'm not excited to get to this one, but it is important to get to, so it will be gotten to this month. And then after that comes The Rise of the Rocket Girl, The Women Who Propelled Us from Missiles to the Moon to Mars by Nathalia Holt. This is the last book on my TBR. This is kind of to be read in pairing with Hidden Figures. Like I said, the women of the space program and of the early space program are something we don't really learn a lot about, but are so fundamental to the space program and computer technology being what it is today, that it's damn time we gave them their due, and I'm really excited to read both these books. So yeah, that's my Nonfiction November TBR. I'm so super excited to get to everything that I have. I'm a little daunted by some of it. I'm just gonna one page at a time. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you want to read any of these. If you have thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, all of them can go down below. Find me on social media. I'm always here to talk books with you lovely people. And until next time, happy reading. Bye.